Oh, yeah. Oh, there's two more. Yeah? Okay. All right. We have two more guests also. Thank you all for joining the culture conversation in Classroom E. I'm glad we managed to rearrange the space a little bit so that we do feel a little bit more culture vibes. I want to, for me, it was really, really important to have this conversation, and I kind of pinged Aya and Skylar, a month ago and said, I think this is an important conversation for us to have. Thankfully, Aya agreed and was like, yes, let's have that conversation. In the meantime, because it's very, very important to have as many perspectives on it as possible and looking at the culture piece from different angles, we are also joined by Sang-Yi and Kim. And we're gonna look at kind of different elements of culture, how the culture of Ethereum is evolving with newcomers, how it's evolving throughout the years and so on. But I wanna do a quick intro. Everybody will just intro themselves. I'm Simona. I've been in this ecosystem since the end of 2017. I have gone through many, many waves of newcomers and waves of energy levels and waves of being able to kind of continue and be motivated to be in this space because, and one of the main reasons is because I feel deeply, deeply aligned with the values of this ecosystem. And for me, coming in to this space has been, and I always make this analogy, like that really, really deep breath after holding your breath for a long time. And it feels very, very good when you do that. And if you think of that moment where you take a really deep breath, that's what it felt like for me coming into the space, and it continues to be that for me. But I will let my other panelists introduce themselves. Aya, do you want to go?
Yeah.
I think it's working.
It's working? It's working. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Aya Miyaguchi from the Ethereum Foundation. So this was more spontaneous program that we try not to discuss too much in advance so that we can include other people we can create the vibe that we're including other people to the conversation. So just having a conversation, and I appreciate Simona suggesting. One of the things that I recognize this time of Devcon is there seems to be more people have this desire to talk about this, right? Like I'm always swamped with so many different things, and I often have to react to the different things. But the hearing, the desire of having a conversation about culture is not necessarily always a good thing. It's but because people feel like something is wrong, or something important is lacking, or something we're losing something, or so that what I'm doing, trying to do here is really trying to listen mostly, and then if I have anything that I can share from my perspective, I'm happy to. So that's my intention here. But thanks for having me.
Hi everyone, my name is Song-Yi. I've been in this space for the last 12 years. I first started before Ethereum time. There is no Ethereum, so I had to use a Bitcoin. Building Bitcoin SMS wallets, so people who doesn't have internet can send and receive Bitcoin or money on the text message. And then later I built the DID system in Korea. And after building all this product, looking back to the ecosystem, wow, there's so many other great builders. I don't probably need to build anymore. And I started looking what is needed in the ecosystem, and it was actually the human layer that's not there. So I started delving into, and my background is a social work, so I love human, I love helping people, I love creating public goods. So I went back, looking at the ecosystem, what's missing, and how can I start it, and then I've found DAOs and community, governance organizing in so many different ways. But right now I think experimenting, let's put it that way, because our ecosystem is still very, very young. What is actually working, and where is the pain point of building community, and then building stories, building narrative, and cohesive narrative, and that all related to culture. I think that's why I'm invited today. I'm happy to discuss furthermore, and happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Kim. I work with Funding the Commons, and I've been exposed to Web3 for about 9 months. Anyone else newer than me in the room? So this doesn't usually happen. I feel like I've been really, really new, so hi, welcome. You're in it with me. And I was very excited to participate to this conversation and to be invited, and that is also a testament to this culture. There are very few industries that would put a newcomer on stage to hear what they have to think about their experience onboarding. And how industries onboard is also a big part of their success or failures. So it's just been really significant for me to be invited into this conversation, and I'm happy to contribute with beginner's mind. My background is in communications, and I've spent the past decade and a half helping brands, institutions, and personalities to express their culture and to make culture. I'm now working with Funding the Commons on the public goods side. And it's been interesting because it is a bit of a gateway for people who haven't yet experienced what we do. And so I'm hoping to build more of those bridges.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So what do we feel? In what ways do we feel the culture of Ethereum has contributed to its success? And what's unique about it? If you have like a thing that's very, very unique. Whomever wants to take that.
Maybe I can, it might be, okay, this is conversation, by the way, guys. It's not a panel. We should put it that way. And this is very intimate space, so I was going to be very open and vulnerable, most of all. For me, Ethereum has been just no longer technology, and it has become a lifestyle. And when I say lifestyle, you don't actually design your lifestyle around technology. I mean, it could be these days, but it's more like a value. It's more like a philosophy. It's more about the people. So it all comes down to a people that you met at the Ethereum ecosystem that has actually significantly contributed to the ecosystem. Because the ecosystem is, again, it's not just like a code is bringing people. It has so many different value that is creating the momentum for people to be, how can I say, aligned with that brand or that the image of Ethereum. So when you say like, okay, I'm part of Ethereum community, that there is a sense of like a proudness, integrity, and also I'm not compromising because I know there is not just me, but a bunch of army of community members building something that is pretty much aligned and here to create some long positive impact for humanity. So that's what I think Ethereum's value is. Really hard to put it in words, but there's a feeling, the energy that has created. And that's what our builders to be here, the new people come, they're like, oh, this feels very different. And yesterday, like one of the MC guy I post on the Twitter, I've been seeing so many different conferences, but Ethereum, Devcon, in like huge stage, people maintain quiet and they wait and they're not making noise. So they're very genuine, sincere, and really integral people here in this community. I mean, being quiet is one example, but you all feel. That's why I think Ethereum is very, very different. And the reason why Ethereum is also different is this is not a company. You know, this is a community. So it's really hard to put, again, the cultures. There's no, like, this is code of conduct. If you don't do this, you're kicked out. You know, it's like there's so many different analogies that I use for, like, a nature analogy of an infinite garden. You cannot kick out, like, butterfly coming in. Yeah, it's not like a house that is closed off. It's always open. So more work, clearly more work, But because of that openness, I think people just stay calm, keep building, and not feeling like, oh, I have to meet somewhere, but like I'm doing because I am in this soil. So that's the power of Ethereum, in my opinion. Yeah.
I will give you maybe my personal story. Before Ethereum, I also joined the industry officially around 2013, and that was before Ethereum time. And then I was at a business, I won't name where, but one of the biggest exchanges, and I was about to quit the space. The reason why is that from the very beginning, I think everything is well connected. What I do in my life is, from the very beginning, my interest was really whether this tech can help create better humanity. And if anything I do is part of making just rich people richer. And so I was ready to quit. And I went to, my first Devcon experience was Devcon 2 in Shanghai. And I think Devcon 2 was actually a bit different vibe, right? For people who went there, you could understand. But still there was this part of this event that didn't look like event, and then this nerdiness, and then like we're pretty disorganized. Even Devcon 3 was pretty disorganized. But I liked it. I liked the vibe. Oh, this is something I've never seen in this blockchain or crypto back then, like a lot of Bitcoin event happening. So it was very different. And the reason why I decided to help when they asked me to help EF was really that I saw the soul there. And I always say this, if I see this is not going toward the direction that I was hoping, and then I'm always ready to quit, because that's the end of the day, like Ethereum is that one method to get to the world that I want to see, but that is very important. So that's why I'm glad that you guys are able to see that through Devcon, because Devcon it's not an event for me. It's an experience. We're trying to provide an experience, and how do we? So every single decision, hopefully, people are feeling it. Little piece of like how design of this logo and everything that we discuss, the team discuss. Like I'm not involved in everything, but yeah. The design is very important. So I think in terms of the importance of the culture to me is base of everything. And so that how do we, when a newcomer comes to this experience, and the Devcon is just one method. I use the term monastery, acting as a monastery. Like Devcon can be one monastery. You come here and you learn. You are not just learning the technology, because you can learn the technology, how to code online, right? But being together in person, what are you getting? And then that's the piece of soul that we want everyone to experience. And that's why if culture is not here with Devcon, there's no point of doing this. Yeah, so that's I think it's how much culture is important.
I love that. Kim?
Some things are coming up for me when you asked the question about this idea of success, right? You asked what in the values of Ethereum have contributed to success, and I'd love to also ask you a question, actually, because we were speaking earlier about individual metrics of success and individual flourishing. And I'd love to talk about that a little bit as what does success look like, and how have you been thinking about this?
So just looping into what both I and Sung-Yi said, and with my own thoughts on this, I genuinely feel, and continuing from that metaphor of that deep breath that you feel, and I'm sure a lot of us feel that, it is that freedom that you immediately feel as an individual, the freedom to be exposed to so many possibilities that I think the world as it is, and it has been for generations, has felt very, very constricted and constrictive. And to your point, this isn't a company, it is a space, it's a feeling, it's a soul. When you were saying about soul, it reminded me of that movie called 21 Grams. Does anybody know that? And it's like when the soul leaves the body, it's lighter by 21 grams. And going into it from that soul perspective, there's that resonance that happens. And I think for me, the measure of success there is, do I feel I'm in a space where I can really, really live up to my true potential in terms of creativity, in terms of where can I put my energy that is far greater than achieving a quota, achieving a whatever revenue, achieving whatever client that's $1 billion, whatever, right? They're not small things that we're talking about here. And really, I think it's that kind of resonance that happens when you feel you are also in the presence of other people feeling the same thing. I think that's what amplifies, right? It's almost like a room with really good acoustics. And you have a desire to do more. You have higher goals and ideals and for self-actualization and for having a purpose. And then you join others who are the same, and they don't even have to say it. You just feel it. And I think that, for me, is what has been so successful about Ethereum in particular. For me, I mean, this is the space that I've spent most of my time in, but that's what it is for me.
I love what you said about being able to reach your full potential. I think a lot of it is the amount of creativity you can access when you are in a space that makes you feel like you can activate as many parts of yourself as possible is pretty magical. And that's been my experience so far, of finding a lot of openness to being able to contribute, to connect people in ways they hadn't been connected before. And feeling also a bit like a tourist, you know, when you visit a new country and then you meet a few locals and you begin to say, oh, I like it here. Oh, I like this, I like that. It's not like I was told what it would be like. I had no idea, but little by little I was like, I could move here. I could live here. And that's been the feeling of my onboarding, because nothing is spelled out. That's one of the difficulties also. There are some things that are universal. That is true. And there are some things that make me feel like I was also visiting a country that has all of these different landscapes. And I was like, oh, there's the mountainside, there's the riverside, there's this side's really hot, this side's really chill, this side activates me. So also trying to understand the landscape and its complexity, and then what makes everyone the same. And I'm finding it's actually quite a solid list of values that are keeping things together. You talked earlier about how much the space has evolved from your perspective. And I'd love to go back to that a little bit, because I can't talk to that piece. And I'd love also to hear a little bit from you about what makes people similar in their values. What are those universal values? Have they ever been made explicit?
This openness to the point where some of us could feel a little bit uncomfortable, right? But it's like if you didn't grow up with that very open culture, but still like it pushes you to be very open and vulnerable. Like also us sitting on the same ground feeling, you know, there's no like a big boss. I mean, I hope like there are some Ethereum Foundation people here. I hope like I never enjoy being the boss type, and then I'm not trying to be the boss, but it's just trying to be a leader instead. But so yeah, definitely like it has to be. We often say this in technology. It's decentralization, open source, and open participation, permissionlessness, right? And then those we see that in people too. And so that's why we can proudly say we mean it. When we say decentralization, we mean it. Right? When we see this most global Devcon this time, like 100 people from 145 countries are here. Yeah, so that is definitely the important. Even having this cultural conversation spontaneously so there's no like EF deciding everything. Like there are a lot of grassroots opinions and requests or cleansing mechanism. Like it's like we like nature. Mm-hmm. So Ethereum does make mistakes culturally too. I think that's like it's my personal view. So don't take it as official EF view, please. But you know, but then there's always learning, and then after that it gets stronger, and we've seen it, and I think that's very powerful. Yeah.
If I can add a little bit, echoing all what you guys share, I think when I mentioned earlier, like a lifestyle is like really the life design, right? And the universal value that all human has is actually the freedom and then hope and happiness. They want to be healthy and happy eventually if they can. I think that's what the universal value is. And in the history of human, there are a lot of, happiness has been always a topic. And, like everybody talks about happiness, but happiness doesn't just come with the feeling of happiness. There is a, yes, content, but physically you want to be healthy, mentally you want to be healthy, emotionally you want to be healthy, but financially you want to be healthy as well. And I think what Ethereum is actually make us to do and actually giving us the capacity to do is not just talking about this invisible value, but also very much a tangible value, and at least the opportunity for us to play with those practicality as well as value. Because in the normal society, if you want to go for your happiness, you have to compromise it. You're like, okay, you do this, like all good things about the world and humanity, and you poor. That's like a common like algorithm, and you never be rich by doing good, right? And so a lot of people like, oh, you know what, you're doing good thing, but you're poor, and you not poor, but like you don't have enough resources. We always have to go fetch resources, and we always have to fight and play in the very limited resource place. And what Ethereum does, and what programmable money, what smart contract does, is actually giving us an opportunity to design incentive, and then design contribution, and then measure that in a human way. I know we are not there yet. I'm not saying if you're new to Ethereum, we are not there. So don't expect, okay, you know what, let me go find those tools. It's not there. That's why we are having this conversation plus. So if we get there, if we're having more conversation like this, what our community member and humanity actually wants is happiness and healthy and greater life with a freedom. And technology has to be part of it. It's inevitable. And if we have to choose one technology or two technology that align with our humanity value and our human value that actually lead us to where we want to be, I think Ethereum is what it is now. And I'm not also saying, maybe unpopular opinion, Ethereum is the only solution. It might be something else. But right now, there's no other solution than Ethereum. So that's why I am personally here. And once we keep bringing this human layer conversation, cultural conversation, really communicating the real value, that the universal value that we can align with other humans that is outside of crypto, then people will start to get it. But if we talk about like technology too much and smart contract and coding, it doesn't actually get their heart. When we don't get their heart, people not changing. It's only remain here and it's gonna evaporate it, right? So the universal value, I really value that question. So we should keep talking about freedom, but not just like, let us free, not like fighting, but like how can we create a real freedom, including all other freedom, physical, emotional, mental, but financial, and also resource. And there are so many different layers that we can all redefine what resource mean. It's not just the money, but like time, energy, relationship, and like so many different things. I think Ethereum technology could make us get there. So that's why I think the relevance with the universal value of human and Ethereum comes together. And still, again, saying a lot work to be done, but that's what it is for me.
You know what's super interesting as we've been chatting, and actually it's the permissionlessness, or like that element of it, that is probably the piece that is the most interesting, because in a way, there's two sides to this. In a way, everywhere else, like if you're in the real world or like in the traditional world, if you want to do something or to create something, you almost feel like you have to ask permission to do something. Whether you're in a corporation, you have to get something approved and have to get the budget to do it, so on and so forth. There's not that agency of like, I don't need permission, I can just go and do something. And I think the speed of execution, and that's why it's so exciting for a lot of people, the speed of execution from idea to something existing is very, very fast. And at the same time, we've also, as humans, have for generations been taught to ask for permission. No, you have no agency. No, you have to do things like this. And you have to do it like this. Otherwise, you don't get money. Otherwise, you don't get status. Otherwise, you don't get this, this, this. So always ask for permission. Know your place. And I think for a lot of us coming in and for a lot of people coming into this ecosystem, it's almost an unlearning of that asking for permission and not believing that you have the power to do things. And I think that's a really interesting thing, again, because we're talking new generations of newcomers coming in and so on, because it's permissionless, so you can come in, do whatever, etc. But it's that ability to unlearn the asking for permission. And what does that unlock for you? Like, what are you going to do? At the same time, though, this leads me to the conversation about new waves of people coming in and new adoption and so on. How do we integrate these new perspectives and new values and sometimes extractive behaviors into these very pure and wonderful and energizing values that we have? Because when we were 500 people or 1,000 people, it was a hell of a lot easier. How do we integrate those into this evolving kind of culture piece? This is genuinely one of the reasons why I was like, I want to have this conversation. Thoughts?
You know the word, the line, infinite garden? This, actually my motivation was the same. In 2020, end of 2020, I think, when I first, it's not even introduced, it's more like I wrote this, I write email to everyone at the Ethereum Foundation, end of the year. And then that year, it was during COVID, and I had more time to, pause and reflect. And then I felt Ethereum was, we felt many times Ethereum was growing. But that year, I felt maybe because I had more time to reflect, I felt that, okay, it is actually growing quickly, right? Not with the hype. That year, I felt like it was actually growing. And then intuitively, I felt that the need of something, whatever, something to for us to review, but also like maybe for myself. What is that? What is that about Ethereum that draws me or that drives this technology to the next to the better humanity? And then the reason why I decided to, introduce that infinite games is from the finite infinite games idea is that it was infinite players and infinite games was something that I felt special about Ethereum. Like a group of people, like you said, originally it was a lot smaller, right? But everyone seems to be really building something together for the purpose of doing this together, not really for one of them to win. And that was very special. That was very special even back then when Ethereum was born. So yeah, this not about someone winning, but we're doing this together, right? And that's why we call it community, not a company. That was my motivation, and it kind of evolved into other people just started to discuss about this, and then I needed that, but it's not something I invented. It's more like it was there in Ethereum, and I just wanted to remind everyone. Yeah.
So you asked also about the kinds of things that could be put into place. It's been interesting. For me, the entry point was through Funding the Commons, which is focusing the conversation on how do you support builders in the ecosystem. And we have, different formats. So you have conferences that feel very open, and then there are more technical formats like residencies or hackathons. And within the process of discovering how the programming was curated, I began to realize that there were some themes or verticals that were an easier access point. And so it's been fun to meet people who are these bridges, whether they're working on climate projects or real-world use cases, to figure out how to play with the mechanisms in certain parts of the world where they're most relevant, most urgently needed. And when they talked to me about their projects, it was all in plain language. And that was really reassuring to enter the space and to say, what do you do? Oh, these people who today cannot use money are able to pay each other. Okay, I get that. It required very little explanation, and it was all very powerful. And so I'm wondering if perhaps part of this equation is also how do we allow people to enter through some of these illustrative stories. And we've talked a lot in a few different settings this week, at least the sessions I was attending, about storytelling and needing to be able to support those doing great work in telling the stories in plain terms, and then also finding the organizations that we can partner with that straddle different worlds and that can do that work for us. So the humanitarian sector, for instance, is in dire need of reinvention. We can help. And so who are the individuals who behave in more permissionless ways in there? And how do we onboard them? Because there are those personalities also outside. I used to always get in trouble in the corporate world for not asking for permission. I was always asking for forgiveness, which they say it works, it doesn't. It made things difficult sometimes for me working with a lot of cross-functional teams, and all of a sudden I'm in a space where that's not a problem anymore, and maybe that's the breath you were talking about.
Maybe following that, to be frank, if you're new to Ethereum, new to any of the crypto, especially in Ethereum space, it's really hard to navigate as a newcomer, especially you are not attached to the organizations or some sort of mission or initiative. You just learn about Ethereum and genuinely interested in, and like, oh, okay, I want to meet somebody, I want to navigate this space, I want to contribute more. And it's not like people actually go to Ethereum Foundation website and read, although there is a lot of information for Ethereum. It's really hard to navigate. And a lot of people who are also building individually and contributing to the Ethereum as a builder, they don't actually have a community around them. Yeah, we just was hanging out with the African builders just this morning, and I know some of them, they've been building for like 5 years, and they never been to a conference before. They only have 4 people online friend that they talk and that they just keep contributing, and that they're amazing, right? And then these people, like, they never actually physically experienced Ethereum in person. There's a many reasons why they couldn't, and then this time they actually made a lot of effort to be here, even at Devcon. But there is so many people who are not here, and the Ethereum community is not just 12,000 people, right? There's a huge, much more. And so when people come into the crypto, as much as we want people to join and understand Ethereum, it's really hard to navigate because there's not enough instruction. It's not a bad thing, that's the nature. When you go to the forest, when you go to the wild forest, there's no sign whatsoever. You just like navigate yourself. But when they go to, for example, like other token, like Solana, for example, it's a company, so it's a very direct, like, okay, you got this, you got this, you got this. We have a team, we have a head of country everywhere, so they doing their thing, right? So they doing their job, onboarding people, everything like so streamlined. So people feel like, oh, this is like a way easier, better onboarding than Ethereum. But they don't even know they're compromising, what they're compromising, because they don't know about the history of Ethereum. So that's why the storytelling point is really extremely important, telling what Ethereum is and then what the history is in a story form. Then they actually get to their heart space. And because of that, Ethereum space is, as much as it's open, but it's also not for everybody right now, because not everybody can align with that. So they have to actually be that special human that is autonomous, that has a capacity to actually face the conflict, and people who are good at communication and have a mission and have a positive energy and hope around it. And those people are not many. I mean, hopefully many. So it comes down to, and especially in Asia, recently we started this community called Pagoda, and how we started is very beautiful. And everybody who was there invited to the gathering first, and they didn't know what is the outcome of that. They just trusted the relationship that they showed up. Only Asian, 50 people from 14 different countries, actually preparing Devcon early this year. And we share what the Dreamy Asia looked like with Ethereum, not for Ethereum, but with Ethereum. Everybody share their vision. We capture every words of it, and we create the value system and what we want to do together. And then I think there is a way that you can really create the infinite garden way of, like a rewilding way of creating community, not top down. And I think it's possible. I'm happy to share the playbook of it. But anyway, at the end, what come out is actually what's really important for us is not about technology. It's about we being better person. And Ethereum is a community helping us to be better person as other peoples are there who are like-minded. So we come up with a concept of a protocol of being, so which is like a practice of either meditation or writing, whatever you want to do. But like, how can we be better person who is equipped to serve the decentralized ecosystem and serve a value of Ethereum, like integrity of it, for example, integrity, long-term view, stewardship. This is something that we didn't learn from school. So you have to learn, but not alone, but in the community. So that's what Ethereum has. So that's how you can actually inviting people by really identifying those people who are ready first, and then show them. It's almost like I don't want to say this, but it's almost like the church message. You know, when you go to the church, people say, you live by example. You lead by example. Otherwise, you say something, it's very valuable, but you act like shit, and then people would not go to whatever community you're in. So actually the personal transformation, and I take Ethereum as a training course and a training community for better human. That makes sense.
But see, here's the thing, though. What you created with Pagoda was, and this is coming back to how do we have this almost like initiation into the culture. You need the spaces to exist because a lot of people may come across things not at an event, not surrounded by people who are, value aligned, et cetera, et cetera. And there is, to Kim's point, there are these entry points that are definitely a lot more conducive to alignment and that kind of like deep breath that you are with the people who are, aligned in terms of values with you. Whereas if you read some stories in the press or have some sort of friend who got rugged or have some sort of random meme coin situation, you might not get to the space where you're able to actually tap into this beautiful substance. And so I think here's the challenge, or what do we need to do to ensure that these spaces are open or opening up for people to be able to tap in the right path or have that initiation so that they don't get disillusioned and go, oh my God, yeah, no, this is a casino. Fuck this, right? These spaces are the gateway, the port, whatever you want to call it, but everything that we've just discussed is around these things. Devcon, Pagoda, Funding the Commons, when I used to do Shelling Point, you see that like, oh yes, this is great. This is actually much, much, much higher than financial incentive. How can I get rich quick? But we do have that aspect to it. How do we make sure that the beautiful soul stuff does not get hijacked, overshadowed, whatever by this financial incentive aspect of it? Because again, we have seen a lot of waves of people who come in for that very specific motivation. And that's totally fine. That's a thing that is part of the multifaceted ways that we also want to grow as humans, like the financial is a reality, but not the reality of scarcity, of extraction, of all of this. How?
I would quickly say, I think we definitely need more use cases, really show people what's possible, and they can still actually feel safe financially by doing the work that they need to be doing. And I'm not talking about, we cannot actually completely ignore the financial piece, right? We have to find a way that we can actually find peace with it. And the bridge is not about one or the other. It's like, how can this be blended really well? The blending experience that needs to be experimented more in the space, because right now it's so divided. You are either vision person or you are like money person. And I don't think they are initially different. They're all looking for the same thing, which is like the happiness and freedom and all that. And I think there is a way that we can weave that thing, but we cannot just speak them, oh no, that's not true, and then so it's the other way. We have to show them what's possible. And I think we are not having enough experiment or use cases of showing that bridge gapping. So that's...
Remember yesterday, though, it was kind of my favorite statement. Someone in the room we were in said, it's not there. People say there are no use cases. That's not true. There are use cases. We're not really providing ways to find them, right? And then I was having this like a breakfast conversation with our Next Billion fellows this morning. One of the fellows, Karam, he's from Syria. He's been working on doing research on how to use this technology to help people in the same situation. He grew up in Syria. was in the jail for a while because he was trying to go against the government. And in that conversation, somehow, this next billion fellow conversation, small room, right? Like, we normally have people who are already kind of in the same type of, who are aware of these things. But one person somehow, well, I didn't know until he told me this morning, this guy was actually just somehow just working on this meme coin person. And somehow, I don't think it's accidentally because you have to you have to choose the room. So at least he came, right? And then he was in this almost like one of the most intense conversations. And it opened his eyes. Oh my gosh. I just realized that I've been working on this, random stuff, like meaningless thing. But until because he was surrounded by all, like you're right, all meme coins, he just would think that's the word that I'm in. But that awareness was when I heard that this morning, oh wow, you just opened the eyes of someone who was really someone else. So I think we need to create more of that opportunities. And you can have one guy talking about one guy from SEA and then everyone else are from meme coins. Then you can really, that ratio is important. So how do we create that? So from our perspective, from the Devcon team's perspective, we are trying to design that in a way that how do we make more of that conversation happen, right? At least you can't really talk in Devcon, you can't really talk about the price. I don't know if everyone is following, but but that's kind of but in a way that I think also the beauty of Ethereum is we never, or EF, we can't kick someone out. We shouldn't, right? Like if we think oh, that guy is definitely working on something wrong, I'm not going to say, hey, you're not part of Ethereum, just go away. It's. I think that this is a community. We also are open to have conversation with anyone, and then give them opportunity to learn or wake up, and as long as they're willing to. If they don't have curiosity to learn, and then they will naturally go away. Unfortunately, we don't have energy to educate every single person in the world. But our priority is starting with curiosity, curious ones, but how we make them curious. Right? So we need the intention, we need the design. I always push the team. I don't like quick and easy solution idea. We need to work for it, even if something looks very funny and goofy, but we
what's the intention?
What's the intention? So that's but then again, the challenge is like you said, it's growing, and also we have this philosophy of subtraction.
Yeah.
And then having that philosophy at the same time, like I said in the opening, that doesn't mean we do less. We invite others to share values together. That has to be the same way, but it's definitely harder way than us telling, hey, this is what you should do, and you go out. You can come in, you go out. But if we do that, Ethereum would lose that core soul too. So we are gonna always have to choose the harder way.
So versus not dictate,
No.
invite with
even,
higher
even
intention.
if someone we feel oh, that's out of our culture, right? So we need the tolerance, but at the same time, it's not just being quiet, do nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of want to open it up to some questions. Who has thoughts, or not even questions, any thoughts? Oh. Live. Yeah. Do we have a microphone just to have floating? No. Okay, let's share. So apt.
Thank you. There was a security problem disclosed in ERC20 standard in 2017. The Ethereum Foundation finalized the standard knowing that there is a security issue reported. No process for disclosing security problems in EIPs is implemented in Ethereum today, 10 years after its mainnet release. In 2023, Fabian Vogelsteller, the creator of ERC20 standard, who is no longer working for Ethereum Foundation, confirmed that the design of ERC20 contains a security problem classified as the impossibility of handling transfer errors. This issue is still not fixed and not publicly announced by Ethereum Foundation. As a result, users lost $115 million worth of ERC20 tokens since 2017. Do you think that this is a reasonable price that we, Ethereum users, need to pay for Ethereum not having a process for dealing with security disclosures in EIPs 10 years after its mainnet release? Yes.
It isn't. That was a very stern delivery. I kind of missed half of that question, personally. I couldn't. I appreciate you having that on video, and you clearly want to make a statement. I think, again, it may not be relevant for this panel. I would love to hear culture-based. Yes. Sure. Maybe they won't hear it for the camera, that's why. Okay.
So great panel, thank you for sharing your thoughts. I have been thinking a lot about, as we're trying to cultivate something, how do we also answer the hard questions people have for us? How do we also confront perception and not be afraid to go to the hard places? And I think that there's, as I've experienced my first conference, there's a tendency to keep it light, not saying this panel, but tendency to keep it light and not really be how are we actually contending with the fact that people think this is a scam or the fact that people hate us?
How can we take people to the hard conversation? To be honest, I think conference like this is extremely hard place to take people go deep. Maybe you can find a smaller corner and intentionally bringing people together to solve it. I think intention is really the half of the conversation, in my opinion. I would love to know what the hard conversation you might think. Maybe we can chat after this. But also one thing that we can do in the Ethereum community is really understanding how to create a safe space and how to create a space for the deeper and hard conversation. I think we can do it. Yeah.
And quickly to your point, I think this is one of the things that, like you said, with people hating crypto and so on, that does take a toll. Having, again, been in this ecosystem and maintaining that energy to continue building whilst people are nope, still not convinced, still a scam, still it's draining. It's very, very draining, and I think a lot of people who maybe were around in the beginning and did put a lot of energy and a lot of effort, there's a lot of people who have taken a step back or left or just to recuperate and get back to a nervous system, regulated nervous system dynamic, and that opens up a whole different conversation. But it's exhausting, and I think to your point, and having these conversations where it is a safe space to kind of support each other through that, because a lot of us are having those experiences, yet we don't necessarily share that. To your point, keeping it, we see each other for a short period of time, and we want to keep it light because it's great to see each other, right? And so, but having those safe spaces for that is definitely important.
Is it? Yes. So I've been traveling with my partner for the past 2 or 3 years. My first Devcon was in Bogota, and I realized that a lot of the energy is very much directed up here, what you guys also mentioned. How do you think that someone's personal well-being directly reflects to what we are building in the ecosystem? I'm here working with different pop-up cities and running wellness track. So really opening this more intimate spaces through ceremony, through rituals, to deepen and like kind of weave in the culture. But I'm looking at it from an outside, but also stepping in now in terms of like, okay, we're creating decentralized governance, different DAOs, different protocols, pop-up cities, these conference and a whole currency. How can we also in a way rewrite the way that we operate around the work culture? And I believe that the IQ is there. We know what we have to do, but how can we fully embody it in order for the energy to fully flow and for our outcome? Or because I'm seeing people are building amazing things with the energy up here, being in fight or flight with a very deregulated nervous system. So how can we, in a way, rewrite or like move the culture a little bit more towards well-being and see what the results of that is and how can we measure it?
Yep. Okay. This is like my favorite subject. I have this tweet that I tweeted last year, which is, you know what's going to get us from Web 2 to Web 3 is therapy. And I speak from personal experience. I burnt myself out at the end of 2022. In Bogota at Devcon, I had just finished Shelling Point. It was incredibly stressful, and somebody at Devcon came up to me and was like, Simona, what are you excited about in 2023? And I went, nothing. So the poor person just like slowly stepped away lest I harm them. And I was like, oh, this is not good at all. And so then I had to quit pretty much everything that I was doing and really go into therapy and go, damn, I think I'm addicted to stress. Okay, where does that come from? Okay, maybe I need to have some naps. Maybe I need to like, again, make sure that I operate from a regulated nervous system, because if you are in a constant stress, you're not going to make the best decisions. You're going to burn yourself out, and you're going to really, let's say, limit your ability to participate in this and actually tap into those higher values and higher intentions that we keep talking about. Because if you're in stress mode, you're only going to think of your base needs. And so with that in mind, I have this thing that I've been talking about where we potentially have a human protocol running alongside the technical ones, right? Where the focus is on the humans, where we have boundaries in place in terms of work hours, like the project lead does not message you at 1 a.m., even though it's a fully international time zone, non-existent kind of, or fluid environment or ecosystem. And how do we implement those at baseline level so that we can grow and we can grow that capacity and teach people. There's a lot of people who have no idea about how to regulate their nervous system. Like, that's just a thing that needs to be implemented in the way we build things, the same way we build smart contracts, building and taking care of those humans building those smart contracts. So I have many thoughts on this. I'm gonna hopefully try to implement some of them, hopefully with people who are into implementing those things at a protocol level, and then let's see. But yeah, so important.
Quickly, so since I was found that human layer is missing, I've been trying to create experiences that change the energy from the head to heart and body since 2018. And I've been doing a lot of experiments I would love to share. And I think now Ethereum space, and especially also developers, I recently run a very small circle for the core devs, and really touching their heart, and they really open up, and they're like, this was amazing. So I think experience is what's needed. It's not a word. It's not a rule. So they have to experience it. Unfortunately, we only few people can have access to the experiences. And I was gonna suggest like Aya and then other friends, yeah, maybe Simona, we should work together to bring more people who are really interested in human design, and then the facilitators who can actually host those conversations, host those spaces. And I think that's another workforce that we needed in the Ethereum ecosystem to actually cultivate that.
Hello. Yeah, I have to move to back because I'm very cold there because of the aircon. Okay, so there are two questions that I want to ask. First is more personal, and second one is more professional. So along the way of preserving values and culture in Web3 community, what are the things that you have relearned and unlearned? So that's the first question. And the second question is, what will be your main advice to builder in dictatorship country like Burma, because I'm from Burma, who want to create a Web3 culture and also educate about blockchain initiative and build public goods using the Ethereum? So that's it, two questions.
I really like your first question, and I'm in the beginning of that process of figuring out what I have to unlearn and what I've had to learn. We were talking about permissionless behaviors earlier. I was acting that way in the corporate world, but not because I trusted the other humans I was working with, just because I had a vision and I was executing and I was being rewarded for it, which is not a regenerative way of behaving. Now that I am in this space, I'm being challenged to question that and to find trust first, a little bit like the innocent until proven guilty idea. So first I have to trust, and then we can workshop together on something. And that's been really on the day-to-day, working with my team, working with cross-functional partners, working with vendors, really realizing that this ecosystem was asking me to look at that. And that's been very interesting from a personal development perspective.
Where did you say you were from?
From Burma?
Burma.
Myanmar, yeah.
Yeah, Myanmar. You are from the place that, strongly...
No, not from, like civil war happening zone, but in central city. Central city like Yangon, Mandalay. So only at that place they are stable, so we can build that kind of community and space. So from that, I want to scale it up to,
Thank you for clarifying. There's like a strong, that long history of deep shared value culture there, but also that the challenge that country is facing. Also, there is opportunities for people to really learn this, right? And then I hope like that's also was some driving force for you to be interested in this, right? And I think that type of place, like people are definitely, there are a lot of curious people should be there. I've met those people from there too. So I think, I don't know, I was in Bhutan the other day, and then because there's a strong respect or polite people who are there, and then they're not like a proactive, they're not really so used to, hey, let's have this meetup and an open conversation, right? Like they wait for someone to be the leader and then, hey, everyone type of thing, right? So there's a little bit of learning that needs to happen there. But if you can be, it's instead of you like, I'm going to create, I'm the leader, it's more like I'm going to create a space. If anyone is interested in learning together with me, and if anyone can actually be part of like teaching others. And so creating a space actually alone helps a lot. And often, if you even set a meetup, like this is how actually a lot of communities started to happen originally is, oh wow, I did not know there's so many people who are interested in this. So like just, you don't need this big event. Like you just need, it can be just a cafe or a small space. You suggest getting together and it will happen, especially if you are in that that place. I'm pretty sure you can find allies.
And happy to connect you with other Burmese friends who are here.
Oh yeah, that would be great. Okay.
So this is not, I'm going to say it's a silly question. I mean, it's a serious question, but I'm presenting it in a very playful manner. So, take with it what you will. To what extent do you think that as the community grows, there's opportunity or a value to have more of a structure for initiation and ritual? And, I think that my friends at MetaGov, my buddy Seth and I talk about this a lot. There are these examples of these distributed organizations where the concepts are sort of centrally developed, but the implementation is distributed. The examples that we think of are the Scouts, and also to an extent AA, these examples of these really amazing organizations that are really implemented by people everywhere, but there's a central concept. And to what extent would something like that be valuable in a setting like this, going beyond the kind of vibes and super permissionless and like conferences as Schelling point structure that seems to be in place now, something a bit more structured like that?
I think this just brings up, for me, again, like all of these spaces for initiation, it brings up Kernel, for me, the Kernel program. That's, it is, in my view, it's that type of initiation where it goes like for 6 weeks, you participate in it with others from all over the world, and then you go into these learnings about, again, the philosophy of it, the values of it, and so on. And then it does dip into, if you want to start building something, or you find somebody within the program and you start building something, then that can also tap into mentorship and so on. I'm speaking, having been a mentor in that, like, first few kernel blocks. And I think something like that, and developing something like that you can take it around and have this curriculum that you get people to gravitate towards, is this alternative to the physical space, physical event, travel to, and so on. Because again, most of it is online, and then it does fold into gatherings IRL when some of these events happen and so on. But that would be a good model as a suggestion for a structured thing that you don't necessarily have to travel to or make all of that effort.
I think making playbook of holding those rituals in your regional hub, I think is really can be one thing you can apply internationally. And I think there is already things happening, and it's not really obvious because it's a very small spaces that are very curated and for particular purposes, but it's there. I think it's moving really, really fast, and then we were gonna see way more in the future. But like, yeah, let's ideate more about that. Yeah, I think the time.
Yeah,
I have a feeling these people are asking questions. Probably they already, or someone like Daniel, you probably have an idea too. So maybe, like, we need more people to actually discuss more and then suggest things together with.
Okay, when's
like
part
you.
2? When's part 2
Don't
of this
ask
conversation
me.
with everybody who's here?
Right?
Schedule
Yeah.
it. Let's schedule it. Okay. In 15 minutes, yeah. Bio break, and then we're back. Okay. Thank you, everybody, so much. We will try to make these like a more open thing, and maybe bigger space, and maybe more like prominent on the agenda. What do you think? Yeah, I think so. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And yeah.